قال هذا رحمة من ربي فإذا جاء وعد ربي جعله دكاء وكان وعد ربي حقا. Suratul-Kahfi, Surah 18, Ayat 98. Qala, he said, Dhul-Qarnayn al-Islam said, Hadha rahmatun min Rabbi. This is a mercy from my Lord. This, Hadha, this, rahmatun, mercy, this is a mercy. Min Rabbi, from my Lord. This is a mercy from my Lord. Now, one question can be, why is, the word rahmatan is in the feminine form. Why is Hadha used, not Hazihi? That is because Hadha, this is in reference to the wall, Jidar, which is masculine. So that's why. This is a mercy from my Lord. This was a grammatical sort of discussion, not an interpretational discussion, and it should be clear by now. For, the verse continues, for, then, but then, Idha, when, Ja, Wa'adu Rabbi. So here, Wa'adu Rabbi is the subject. Wa'adu is the subject, but then it's a connected idhafa. Wa'adu Rabbi plus E, Wa'adu Rabbi. There are three words over there. The promise of, the of is coming in between because of the idhafa construct. Of my Lord. The promise of my Lord, Rabbi, my Lord. It's also Rabbi plus E, so Rabbi. But then when the promise of my Lord cometh to pass, Ja comes, to come. Cometh to pass is sort of biblical English, you can say, or old English or scriptural English. I prefer this style, otherwise you can say when it comes, when it happens. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي. But then when the promise of my Lord cometh to pass, جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا. جَعَلَهُ, he will make it, جَعَلَهُ, he will make it, that's the easy way to translate it. He will make it dakka, that is noun. He will make it. Okay, if I let's say let me use just one word before we discuss a little bit more in depth in second iteration, in our second iteration into dust. Ja'ala, he, who, Ja'ala, he will make. Okay, so this is Ja'ala is in the past tense pattern. You can ask me why am I translating the future tense if it's in the past tense. Obviously, Dhul-Qarnayn alayhi salam is narrating what will unfold. This is a mercy for now, but then something else will happen with this wall at a certain point of time. And at that time, obviously it's in a future event. He will make it into dust. He made it into dust. But why is the past tense used? That can be a good question. That is because, I could have avoided this entire discussion, but I thought since I came across this grammatical thing, let me explain it. That is because this is used as an emphasis of certainty. For you, it's a future event, but for Allah, it is as good as done. Because future is as certain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? In that sense, emphasis of certainty. That wall will not stand one day. One day it will so happen that the wall will be no more. Simple. Ja'alahu, he will make it dakka, into dust. Dakka is the noun form. Dakka is the verb form of the same. Wakana, and was. I've deliberately translated was because kana means was, though the was will not fit it properly. Wa'adu Rabbi haqqan, and the promise of my Lord, the same construct, Wa'adu Rabbi. So, and the promise of my Lord, kana will translate later. Haqqan is true. But if we translate, and the promise of my Lord was true, doesn't make sense. Does it make sense? Was it true only before, not now, or not in the future? Though in the Arabic language, present future is clubbed as mudare, fail mudare, the present future tense. It has to be implied, interpreted from the context, whether it's talking about the present tense or the future tense. But past tense is past tense. What is over here? So, kana, the normal way the scholars will suggest is when kana is in reference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is better to translate it as is. And the prophet of my Lord is true, something like that. But I have a better way to capture the same. I agree partially with what they're saying. It has a sense to it. So in many instances where the scopes arises, I have translated in the past as has always been. But here, look at this, is ever true, is forever true. So even in the past it was applicable, but not just in the past, present also, and anytime in the future also. So this way, we are able to capture the intended connotation. So basically, the use of the word kana over here is basically to imply it's not just true for now and in the future, but also in the past it was true. So ever true, this phrase then captures that connotation according to my understanding. How else would you do it? There could be ways in the English language, but I think this way, according to my understanding of the English language, it captures the connotation best. If there's anything else, you can suggest, but you cannot distort the context and the connotation. Without that, you can translate it any other way you like. But both the use of the word was as well as is sort of not very appropriate over here. And the promise of my Lord is ever true. You see how the past tense is also taken into its fold, as well as the permanent nature of the connotation is true, is implied, right? And the promise of my Lord is ever true. Now coming back to the word dakka'a, now there are multiple meanings to it, and you already know jala. The word jala is a flexible word. So instead of saying he will make it into dust, you can say he will demolish it and turn it into dust, something like that. At that time you can't say and he will demolish it into dust. In English it sounds a bit odd. And he will demolish it. Instead of he will make it into dust, he will demolish it and turn it into dust. But the word dakka, that's an okay translation. But the word dakka has multiple meanings if you refer to the verbal root dakka, and if you refer to the dictionary, it has multiple meanings. I've tried to capture some of the meanings which fits the context. Demolish it. He will demolish it, devastate it. Perhaps even more stronger word than demolish. He will devastate it, right? And the way I have presented, I'll come to it. Ruin is also sort of a dictionary meaning, but we'll avoid, because Allah, to associate the word ruin with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's not very appropriate. That may be suitable in some other context. Dictionary will give you the set of meanings. Which of those meanings is applicable in the context of the verse, you will have to think through. Most of the meanings will apply, and perhaps multiple of them will apply simultaneously, which is sort of the beauty, the enhanced beauty of the language itself. So one way to look at it is he will demolish, nay, devastate it. So we get capturing the emphasis, and you can see the word shadda over there. So sort of a concept of repetition is intrinsic to it, to such words, right? Pound it and crush it. He will pound it like this. So the repetition, the connotation of repetition is implied through the shadda, use of the word shadda. And crush it. Dakka, level it is also correct. Force it to the ground is also correct. Level it to the ground. So I've tried to capture as many of the meanings. So ruin is not very sort of appropriate. Allah, these are some of the things he will do. He will not ruin it. He will turn it into something else, and that will be used for something else. The establishment of the Day of Judgment, the start of the Day of Judgment. So that's why he'll do it. So it has a purpose. So it's not ruining it. Ruining it means just ruining it, and it is rendered unserviceable or unusable for any other purpose, for any purpose. So that's why we avoid the word ruin, but we do capture some of the other words that are coming from the dictionary. He will demolish, nay, devastate it. So I'm just pausing so that I can highlight, okay, even more than demolish, this next word that's coming up is even more true. This is true, that is even more true in that sense. He will demolish, nay, devastate it. Pound, that is from the root word dakka. Dakkaka, but the kaf is repeated, so shadda is there, dakka. It's not the pattern, what is it? Pattern 2. It's not the pattern 2, verb form 2. It's pattern 1 only, dakkaka, fa'ala pattern. But the shadda is there over here in this case. And whenever the shadda occurs, whether it's in pattern 2 or pattern 1, then that sort of is hinted at. He will repeatedly do that act. He will pound it and crush it, level it to the ground, and turn it into powdered dust particles. So you can understand what's mentioned. He will demolish, nay, devastate it, pound and crush it, level it to the ground, and turn it into powdered dust particles. So with this understanding, I hope things should be clear. Just one more point from the previous verse, if we want to connect it, that will be good for us. That is, in the previous verse, we talked about the construction of the wall, right? And here it says, once the wall is constructed, Dhul-Qarnayn does not take credit for himself. So though he put in the work, he thought of himself as a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the credit is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what he's saying. This is a mercy from my Lord. Don't thank me, but thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is through me that he ensured that this help is reached out to you, but then now that is done, know that this is a mercy from Lord. But wait, the verse does not stop here, and that is where the critical part lies. Though I'm saying it's critical, it's not very long. But one day it will, but then when the promise of my Lord cometh to pass, he will turn it into dust. He will make it into dust. It will be no more. And the promise of my Lord is ever true. That need not have been there. But that's just to substantiate that will surely happen, that the wall one day will be no more. It will cease to exist. So now the question is, when is this verse revealed? This verse is revealed to Prophet ﷺ 1400 plus years ago. Fine. But the story narrated is even earlier. It predates that era. So the words are dating back to the era of Dhul-Qarnayn al-Islam himself. From that time, any future point of time, that promise, it is possible. It is in the set of possibilities that it could have come to pass. It can come to pass in any time in the future from the time of reference of Dhul-Qarnayn al-Islam, right? If you are reading it and you are thinking that, okay, it's talking about the future, then that is not actually true. Then at any point of time, people will continue to think of that way. One example could be when you read about the hadith regarding prophecies, the minor signs, the major signs, the special signs, the third category, which we have introduced. And we have had separate sessions on this. You can check those videos. But the point is, these signs, some of them have become manifest. But the words of the hadith, when it was captured, it still says in the future, this will become manifest, this will happen. But those have happened now. So prophecies from that reference point, time reference, any time is a future time. Similarly, when we discuss about the prophecies of Prophet ﷺ in the previously revealed scriptures, whether it be the biblical scriptures, whether it be the Judeo-Christian, biblical itself is in reference to the Judeo-Christian, whether it be in reference to the Hindu scriptures or the other scriptures, when we talk about the prophecies about the Prophet ﷺ as their promised last prophet, you tell them that why don't you realize that it is from that time of reference and he has already come. The Prophet Muhammad, the last prophet, he has already come. So similarly, just as you think they are faltering, you should not falter in a similar manner. So when dealing with the hadith which relates to prophecy or any other future events, you should know that is from that point of time of reference. So from the time of Dhul-Qarnayn, this promise could have been fulfilled potentially any time in the future. So are we now living in that future? Yes. So it is possible that it can happen now. It is possible that it would have happened early. It is possible that it can happen later. Which of it is true? From the text, the Quranic text from Surah Anbiya in conjunction with this Surah, Surah-Kahf, because Surah Anbiya also speaks about Dhul-Qarnayn alayhi salam. It speaks about Dhul-Qarnayn in Surah Anbiya, chapter 21, verse 95 and 96. Go and read that as well for a better context. And the hadith, if we take it into totality, into consideration, it becomes clear to us. And also the books of history, Tariq, it becomes clear. I think I mentioned about one of the caliphs and the delegation he sent. I did not describe it in detail. We'll discuss that in details in a separate session, that he sent a delegation and the wall was no more. And the delegation came back and reported it back to him that the wall is no more. So that future from the reference of Dhul-Qarnayn alayhi salam, from his point of time, that has already happened. So how stupid can we be collectively if we were to continue to think, even after the wall is no more, to think that the wall is there and this event will happen in the future. because historically it has been documented, and that future has already come at that point of time. Again, during the Caliphate era, I'm talking from the reference time of Dhul-Qarnayn and Islam, that future had already come, so it was possible, and it had already fulfilled, and that prophecy had come to pass. It had come to pass. It will come to pass. The promise of the Lord comes to pass. It will come to pass. It has come to pass now. It had come to pass then. It had been fulfilled. Prophecy has been fulfilled. So these are some of the points. If you remember, we'll be able to appreciate it better. And there are certain hadiths which certain, I shouldn't even say scholars, they quote to say that the Gog and Magog people, the wall is intact and they will be released in the future. That's wrong, because it badly exposes them actually. It badly exposes their understanding of Islam. Forget about Islam, their understanding of Arabic language itself can be challenged, because the word used over there is different and the word used over here and Surah Ambe is different. It badly exposes them. So scholars, if you truly consider yourselves scholars, demonstrate some basic scholarship and authenticity in your treatment towards Islam, so that it benefits you and it might benefit others. But we know that that's a rarity, because out of every 1,999 will be deviated. Can't help that. That's a decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so to say. Anyway, but that one person will be benefited, and that one person out of 1,000 in today's ratio proportion is close to 1 crore. That's a lot. 1 crore is a lot. And 1 crore is how many? 10 million. 10 million, it's huge. Okay. So it's, 1 crore is indeed a lot. You will not be able to count up to 1 crore. It's that huge a number. Okay. So I think overall we have discussed what we wanted to discuss, and I'm just rethinking whether I'm missing something. So yeah, so that had come to pass. So those will be discussed in a separate session. As far as the treatment of this verse is concerned, we are good. We'll just read it one more time, as we always do. قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّاءَ وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. He said, this is a mercy from my Lord. But then when the promise of the Lord cometh to pass, he will demolish, nay, devastate it, pound it and crush it, level it to the ground and turn it into powdered dust particles. And the promise of the Lord is ever true.